So my supposed best friend of 20 plus years is no longer my friend as of today, which is kind of funny and ironic because I literally just posted a video of like, where are the genuine people at? Where's my empaths at? Where are my friends at? So yeah, I mean, I kind of got it in motion because I was just like, girl, I gotta take a step back from you. Like, she made a comment yesterday. I sent her a transition video of my weight loss journey, and I don't post transitions where I'm completely in my underwear because I still have a lot of insecurities, and the more weight I lose, the looser things are, you know. And she doesn't really pay attention to me a lot of the time. Like, we'll be on the phone, and if it's not about her, she's just like, yeah, haha, or like, oh yeah, I'll look at it later. Like, you know, like, it's always, if it's not about her, then it's kind of like just filler words until it can be about her again. So that's one of the reasons why I told her I have to take a step back, because there's just things that have been adding up over time where I'm like, I don't think that we align as friends anymore. And I was just kind of trying to keep it cordial, you know, like I didn't want to have to go off on her because I still have love for you, you know. But I just told her, like, can't do it anymore. I took her off my socials, and then I texted her this morning. I was like, hey, like, I gotta take a step back. And it wasn't about the comment you made, because the comment she made was she said it looked like you got a big old dick in your pants because my fat maw is a little poofy, you know. And that's one of my biggest insecurities. Like, I'm not gonna act like I'm not insecure. I am. I have things I'm insecure about. I love my body, but there's still gonna be things that bother me and I want to improve, you know. So she said that, and I just, like, we were on FaceTime at the time, and I was just like, wow, you're a fucking asshole. And she kept, you know, kept trying to play it off and like, haha, you know how I am though. And then that sentence right there kind of broke my brain. Like, I was like, you know what, you're right. I know that you're an asshole, and why would I expect you to ever one day wake up and not be a fucking asshole? So why would I want to be friends with someone that's a fucking asshole, you know? So that's all I left it at. This morning I was like, hey, you know, I just want to take time. If you want to talk about it in depth, we could do that. But I just didn't want to give it the energy. I was just kind of like, I'm setting my boundary and we can figure it out from there. She sends a fucking essay. She sent a fucking essay of like several paragraphs, like a whole big ass thing. I had to scroll through that bitch. And she basically starts off with, thanks for doing the favor because I haven't had the courage to do it. And I'm like, okay, we're starting off that way, then we're not fucking friends. And then she proceeds to go through things that I've done throughout the years. And she was like, I'm happy that you're growing. I'm happy that you're being a better person and healing, but it's making you blind to the things that you do. And you're not a fucking good friend. And you don't appreciate X, Y, and Z. And I feel like now that you started your TikTok journey, you're just so self-absorbed. You're more self-absorbed than ever. I was like, girl, what? Because of TikTok? Like, I genuinely, I'm so fucking confused by that, because if anything, TikTok really opened up my mind to realize that I don't have to stay in a shitty friendship. I don't have to stay friends with somebody that doesn't value me and somebody that tears me down. Like, why would you talk about my body like that? Like, she already knows I don't like that shit, because when she'll fat shame other people, I'm like, I side eye her and she'll be like, I know, whatever. Because she knows I don't like that shit. And then specifically for it to be towards me and to be disrespecting me, I don't want to be your friend. I don't. Like, why would I want to keep somebody that's so toxic and so negative around me? And that's just like one of the problems I have with her. Like, literally, I could list so many things, just character flaws. And that was part of what she said to me. She was like, yeah, you're growing and all this stuff, and it's making you blind to your own faults. And then she starts bringing up stuff from 5+ years ago. She starts slut shaming me for things I did 5+ years ago, because she says that I judge her dating. I judge her dating life now, which I do. I will admit that I do judge it, but not in a shaming way. I judge it in a, you could do better, and you're getting yourself into certain positions. And I'm not gonna put all her business out there, because at the end of the day, that was my friend, and that's just not in my character. But she's gotten herself into a crazy predicament right now, and it's because she was being reckless with her body. Like, I just feel like the things that I say, the things that I do are out of care, and the things she says and does are to put me down, to bring herself up. And I finally hit a wall. I genuinely, like, the fact that instead of being like, okay, let's talk about the problems, or being like, okay, you know, I'll give you your space and then we can work on it, you immediately jump to, thanks for doing me the favor. Then we were never friends. Like, we were never friends. And then at the end of it, she's like, I'm tired of you breaking up our friendship every few years because you're so sensitive. One, wasn't being sensitive. That's just rude as fuck what you said to me. The last time that we broke up our friendship was literally because I was in an abusive relationship and he wouldn't let me have friends, so that wasn't even on me. The first time was because our entire childhood growing up, I told all my friends, I don't like my friends to fuck with my brother. That's just my boundaries. Other people, you can have people fuck your brother and that's cool. That's always been my boundaries. Every person that has been my friend from growing up until now has known I don't like people fucking around with my brother. That's just, I've always felt that way. You could ask me why and I don't know. That's just something that's always been my boundary. We're 19. I move home after living out of state for a year. She has problems with her family. I move her into my home. And while I'm out working and they're unemployed, chilling, smoking weed all day, she starts fucking my brother behind my back. And then I have to find out because I find them in bed together at another friend's house one night. Like, already, that should have been my first, like, okay, you're very self-serving and it doesn't matter what my boundaries are. You're gonna think about yourself. So I should have known. I really should have known for all of these years. I should have known that this is what it would come to, and I should have known that she is a self-absorbed person. And the fact that she said, come on bro, you know who I am, that just further affirms, like, I do. I really do. And I know that I've outgrown this friendship. I have love for you. We have history, literally been friends since we were 4. We're 27 now. But it's always been rocky. It's always been rocky with her. It's always been a battle. And she said in her message that she's tired of walking on eggshells with me because I judge her about her sexual endeavors. I judge you because of the positions you put yourself in. I'm not judging you for being free. I'm not slut shaming you. You do risky things and you don't take care of yourself. I don't think that's okay. And if you don't want to be my friend because I'm being honest with you, well, I don't want to be your friend because you're being a fucking asshole. And I think I've finally come to terms with it, and I've made peace with it, because I think I made peace with it a long time ago. I think I knew that I have outgrown this friendship and I just wasn't ready to take that step off the plank. You know, I wasn't ready to go for the plunge because of all the history and because of all the time we have spent together. But I truly feel like it's time for me to move on. I have my 2 solid friends and they love me more than anything, and they treat me better than she ever could. And it is sad, just like the time of it, you know, like anybody's gonna be sad if you lose a 20-year friendship, but I don't know if I'm sad. It's kind of like one of those, like, that sucks, but I'm glad it was mutual. I'm glad I didn't have to feel like an asshole being selfish and leaving you in a hard time, because it's mutual. You showed me that you have all these things that you were keeping in and building resentment for me because you came locked and loaded. The chamber was loaded with things to say about me and about my past when it had nothing to do with our conversation. She literally deflected and just started bringing up shit from years ago, just so I would look like the bad guy. And I'm done with it. I really am. And if anybody sees this that knows us, I don't give a fuck anymore. I don't. I'm protecting her to a certain extent by not putting all her business out there, because that's just not me. But that friendship's over and it is what it is. Honestly, I honestly feel like that fucking meme where they break out of the chains, because that's what it felt like. It felt like I was keeping myself down by being her friend for so long. And I should have known. I should have known when she fucked my brother and lied to me for months, and then somehow made it about me being an asshole for not wanting her to fuck my brother. I don't know. Anyways, welcome to my life. When they say to listen to your mom about friends, listen to your mom about friends. Because when I tell you this lady was geeked that I dropped that friendship, she blew her tooth out. She literally has fake teeth in the front, and she blew one of them out because she got so passionate talking about how she's a rotten fruit that she blew her fucking tooth out. That's my mom, y'all. But mind you, for context, she literally has been telling me since we were 5 years old that that girl's not my friend. And obviously, you know, I'm a stubborn kid, and I'm like, well, like, my mom's tripping. She doesn't want anybody to be my friend. But genuinely, that's the only one she ever warned me about. And look at us now. And as a spiritual girly, I fully believe in when one door closes, another one opens. And like, when you're advancing to another version of yourself, you have to fully let go of what doesn't serve you. Because tell me why I dropped that friendship, and now I'm getting all of these new followers and all of these new girlies supporting me, validating me, and just making me feel so much better about the situation. Like, literal strangers are having more empathy for me than someone that was supposed to be my friend. And that's so crazy. But that's also what I love about the internet is like maybe my friend's just on TikTok. Maybe my true friend just hasn't met me yet. And I needed to get rid of what wasn't serving me so I can open these new doors, you know? I say all of these new followers like I'm getting hundreds or something. It's literally like 10 people, but I'm genuinely so grateful just for one person that's supporting me. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's so great to feel validated from people that don't even know you. Like they just see you. And obviously y'all don't know all the details and y'all don't know me, but I don't know. It's a great feeling to feel like I'm not alone and it's not the end of the world losing a friendship, you know? There's so much more to life and there's so many more friends to make, you know? Like I feel like when it was first going down, the people pleaser in me was like, oh my God, what if I'm being an asshole and X, Y, and Z? And then for other people to be like, no, girl, like you're right and you don't deserve somebody like that in your life. Like, I don't know, it's just a great feeling. But I'm really looking forward to whatever's next, honestly. I feel like that was the last thing holding me in that chapter of my life and like really bad way of thinking and bad way of being because when you're just carrying someone toxic around, like it bleeds off on you. Like how my mom said she's a bad fruit. Like one fruit goes bad, the whole bunch is gonna go bad, you know? So I know that it's for the better and I know that I'm gonna do better. And I'm ready to move on. And the point that my mom made was like small town bullshit. Like you kind of tend to stay in the same cycles with the same people because that's all you knew growing up. Because literally my graduating class was like 115 people, and I kind of had to have the same best friend. Like there wasn't many options. But I literally moved to New York City. Like there's millions of friends I can make here. Obviously that's kind of hard, you know, being a toddler mom and not really going out much. But the internet's the internet's great, and I'll make some new beautiful friends from my TikTok, you know. And at the end of the day, all that matters are me, my partner, and our child. And if we're good, I'm good. And I've made peace with a lot of things. And I think that life is all about letting go. Genuinely, it's just a series of letting go of what no longer serves you, and sometimes letting go of people that you love because that's part of life, you know? People come and go, and phases come and go, cycles come and go. You just kind of got to roll with it. And I'm rolling. And let this just be your reminder that it's never too late to do what's best for you. It's never too late to step out of people pleasing tendencies because that has been a lifelong struggle of mine. But it's never too late to get a new lease on life and to do what's best for you. And I love y'all.
Hey guys, let's get ready for court together because I sued my ex-boyfriend for stealing thousands of dollars from me, and now we're going to civil court. And I know what you're thinking. Babe, your man stole thousands of dollars from you? Yes. Yes, he did. And I thought he was going to repay me because he's a big boy with a big boy job, making $150K base a year. And hello, that was my boyfriend. Like I confided and I thought I trusted him. Turns out he ran off with my credit card and my debit card and was gambling on my checking account. And I never saw that money except $1,000 that he did send me after I threatened to tell everyone about the situation. So let's get ready for court. Court is in like 40 minutes, 50 minutes, 50 minutes. I'm not doing anything crazy. I think I'm just gonna do a little lash, a little brow, maybe a little bronzer and blush moment, but I'm not doing a full beat because, babe, this is court. I'm not going to the club. Okay. But I will tell you guys, I guess, more of a backstory. I was with a man who turns out to be a fucking fraud of a man, big fat liar of a man, who pretty much just lied to me my entire relationship about every single thing. There's not one single thing that he said that was actually accurate or true, except maybe like his favorite holiday or, like, I don't know, his favorite food. But everything else was a fucking lie. Anyways, he had asked to borrow my credit card because his card wasn't going through at like some smoke hookah like networking event. And I thought, okay, well, yeah, I'll give you my card. It's fine. Like, he's going to pay me back or whatever. And he just kept using my card. And he would use it for his personal expenses. At some point, he was using it to take Ubers to and from work because he got a job in Miami and he was living in Fort Lauderdale. So he was using my card to get on the Bright Line, to call Ubers, to go out with his friends, go to the fair with his friends. Like, what? And at one point, I was also being so kind, and I took his cat to the vet because he was a horrible, horrible father to his children. And I took his cat to the vet because he was giving it away. He could no longer take care of it and bring it into his new place. I took his fucking cat to the vet. Mind you, the night before I took his cat to the vet, he was sleeping with a bunch of people in his apartment, having orgies, and just having a going away party that I wasn't even invited to and I didn't even know about. So yeah, I kind of was his bank account for a few weeks. And then at one point I reported my card stolen. Like, I gotten a text from Chase saying, was this you? And I said no, because it wasn't me, and I was fed up. I didn't want him to like run my card up anymore. And he confronted me about it, and I felt guilty, and I was like, well, I have my debit card. Like a fucking idiot, I gave him my debit card. And then he also has really, really poor credit, so he doesn't have a credit card. He doesn't have a credit card, or at least didn't have one when we were together. And he was an authorized user on his friend's Amex. His friend, what's his name? Andrew. Yeah, fucking Andrew. Enabler. He was an authorized user on Andrew's card. And to pay his card off, he went on Venmo, or I think it was PayPal, and PayPal'd his fiance the money that he owed him off of his Amex. Does that make sense? He swiped my card for like $3,500 to pay back his friend's Amex card. Like, huh? What? And he refuses to pay me back because, I don't know, I think like his phone is missing, because I went through his phone, and that's how I found out he was like cheating on me with multiple women and was in a whole another relationship with another person in Wisconsin where he played football, which I don't even think he played actually. I think he was just on the team. Like, I don't even think he actually played football. I don't. I didn't find any record of him playing a game at Wisconsin. I have no idea what that's about, okay? But anyways, I go through his phone, I find everything out, and I'm like, oh my God. I was right. My intuition was right the entire time. The entire fucking time. So we kind of went back and forth, and he was like, I need my phone. That's all he gave a fuck about was his phone, not the fact that he just spent the last 6 months in a relationship with me lying about our entire relationship. He just wanted his phone. I'm just like, are you sick? You want your phone and you owe me $10,000? Oh my God, go right to fucking hell. Go right to hell. So he wants his phone. I have no idea where it's at, but I know that he owes me money. And there's texts to prove. I sent him a demand letter. He responded. You know, there's no way of getting around this if you think that I'm just going to give you your phone, or like, are you sick? You're sick. You're a sociopath. You're fucking sick. But I haven't spoken to him or seen him literally since I went through his phone the day before I actually went through his phone. I like baby went through his phone when he was at my house the day before I went through his phone. I went through his phone twice. Essentially, once he was here in my room with me, and then he was being a little bitch and he left. And then the next day he was at a friend's house for a little birthday bash that he didn't tell me about. And so I drove down to Miami to go through his phone, and then I found out what I found out. And so after going back and forth with him, shortly after leaving his ass, I recognized and I realized that he wasn't gonna pay me back, because he's all talk. He likes to talk. He likes to make promises. And when I got back from working in Tennessee, I was in Tennessee for a few weeks, I filed the lawsuit against him. And now we have our pretrial today. And I am excited, but I'm not excited to see him because he's fat and ugly. And looking at him is really triggering. So I really hope he just doesn't show up, just for the sake of not having to interact with him. Like, I would love to not ever see him or speak to him ever again, but get paid. Because obviously, like, babe, that's my money I worked for. Like, I worked my ass off for that money. I'm a working class girl, okay? I was serving in Hawaii, busting my ass, crying thousands of miles away while he was here with my car. Mind you, he crashed my car, cheating on me, sleeping with women, sleeping with a lot of different people, going to swingers parties, like dating other people. Like, and you think you're gonna run off with my 10 grand? Anyways, this is the beat. I literally did this in 10 minutes. This is nothing crazy. It's literally just the lightest thing you can think of. Also, my skin isn't like, it's not the worst right now, so I don't need a lot of makeup. But I just wanted a little something, okay? Just a little something. Wish me luck.
My cousin has Munchausen syndrome by proxy and is absolutely obsessed with my daughter. So get ready with me while I tell you how this all came about. For reference, when I say my daughter, she is my adopted daughter who was originally my niece. I'm gonna cut this down the best that I can and still make it make sense to you. So my daughter is gonna be 10 years old next week. I first got her when she was 3 months old. When she was 2 years old, I got really sick and I was also going through a divorce and I didn't have anybody to help me with her. I was having a major surgery. I was having an organ removed. And so my aunt and her daughter, my cousin, from Arizona, offered to step in and take her while I recovered. At the time, I was unaware of how crazy she was because she lives a state away and we're really not that close. A little bit of backstory about my cousin. Although she is very book smart, she is very weird, and I learned all of this from her brother and his wife after the fact. I definitely wouldn't have let my daughter or my niece go if I would have known this. At the time my daughter went to go stay with my aunt and my cousin, I believe my cousin was 20 years old. Not only does she suffer some weird anxiety and attachment issues when it comes to her mom is her best friend. She's never had a boyfriend. She's not interested in having any sort of relationship outside of the relationship with her mother. When she was a baby, they had her birthdays at Chuck E. Cheese, and she has this weird attachment to all kinds of things, and so that was an aspect of her life she did not want to change. And so every year, including to this day, and I think she's about 25 or 26 now, she still has her birthday at Chuck E. Cheese. So yes, she had her birthday party for her 21st birthday at Chuck E. Cheese. I think she suffers from some like type of OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. She's got to have like a certain brand of green beans in a can. They're the only type she'll eat. Weird things that have to be the same and repetitive. When my niece went to go stay with them, I had constant contact with her. We would be on FaceTime and phone calls all the time, but then they kind of slowed down, like my cousin was avoiding me. I later learned that she was trying to disconnect my niece from the family so that she could file some paperwork like abandonment and be able to adopt her. My niece randomly started calling my cousin mom and my cousin's grandparents, my aunt and uncle, grandma and grandpa. And when I asked her why she was doing that, she said that my cousin told her it was rude to call people by their first name. My niece was there for about 2 months when I decided that it was time to get her back. In the meantime, I had also gained custody of her 2 older brothers. When I told my cousin that I was gonna get her back, she told me good luck and she filed some emergency paperwork to keep my niece in Arizona. She basically stated that my niece was scared of me and a whole bunch of other false things. I ended up having to hire an attorney, and when things weren't going her way, they ended up switching judges. Later I found out there was definitely some sort of connection between my cousin's family and the judge because what ensued was absolute chaos. My cousin decided to go the route of making up a whole bunch of false accusations pertaining to my niece's health. She made this laundry list of things from food to laundry soap to additives and preservatives that she was allergic to. She also said that she was uncontrollable. When I went to court and I said, hey, there's no doctor's recommendations for these allergies, they basically didn't listen to me and said that I had to abide by this made-up list that my cousin made. And every time that I had a visit in Arizona with my niece, my cousin would take my niece afterwards to the urgent care or to the ER and claim that I fed her things on this allergy list and she was having this major breakout. And every single doctor said the same thing. There was basically nothing wrong with my niece and they didn't know why she was there. This went on for about a total of 16 months before I finally got her back. Again, my cousin had to have known somebody within the court system because DCS, the Department of Child Services, would make recommendations and the judge wouldn't listen to them. She would do absolutely everything that my cousin said. Every motion that was filed was granted, and this went on for 16 months. There's a lot more detailed things behind this, like she paid cash for a therapist to write a recommendation that she stay in Arizona. If you guys want me to do a longer version of this, I can. At the end of the day, I did end up getting my niece back, and it's been over 4 years, and we've had absolutely no communication with her, and to this day, she still sends packages. This package right here came this week. She will send a package for every single holiday. She addresses the card by her name, but she will always send something from my aunt and uncle and address it grandma and grandpa still. I did send her a text message probably about 4 years ago when I got my niece back, and I told her basically, you caused us hell and so much stress, leave us the hell alone. She did not respond to that text message, and she didn't send any text messages for 1 year exactly, and then she sent a message acting like I didn't just tell her to go to hell. But during that time, she was still sending packages. The whole thing just doesn't make sense to me because when my niece finally came back to me, she would tell me that my cousin would make her play by herself in the room. Look at that sweat mustache. And that she wouldn't like kiss her, and she would also say things about her biological mother. And I'm thinking, why would you try so hard for a child that you are not fully embracing? But yeah, that's my crazy family story. I'm sure you guys have some wild family stories. If you want the long, full version of this, let me know.
Just getting ready with me while I talk about how I got essentially scammed out of $700 by my old apartment building. I feel like I've seen a lot of videos lately of just people talking about how crazy the housing market is, you know, like trying to find a place that's affordable and yet kind of meets all of your needs, etc., etc. And like people obviously have really crazy stories. And honestly, so I lived in this apartment building before. I had a studio apartment there. I moved there when I was just coming into town. Like I just started a job and I kind of needed to find a place quickly. I didn't want to spend that much money on it. It was fine. Like honestly, for what I paid and where I was, like I really did like it. I knew eventually I wanted to move into a bigger apartment. And it was in a complex, so they offered that, and I knew eventually, like once I got a pay bump and stuff, that I would probably move into a bigger apartment. So like year rolls around, or 9 months or whatever it rolls around, however long my lease was, and I go to upgrade. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna apply for, you know, a 1-bedroom apartment, whatever, blah blah blah. I can stay in the same place, like they've been good, etc. Like they take care of the property, they're really responsive, whatever. No complaints. It was also a bigger company, so like they're a little more on top of that. But I go and I apply. I still have to like resubmit an application and like the application fee and all that jazz. And at this particular apartment, and I knew this before because I had applied before, you pay the application fee, which is, you know, I don't know, somewhere in the realm of $60 to $70. And then you also have to pay the half of the security deposit when you apply. Is it a little weird? Yeah. But like, you know, I had done it before when I applied. You pay half the security deposit when you apply, and then half the security deposit when you like sign and move in and stuff. Okay, so they call it when you apply, because they can't technically call it a security deposit because you haven't signed for an apartment. They call it an application deposit that is then applied towards your security deposit. So they call it an application deposit, even though it's separate from application fee. So I apply, whatever, da da da. In the midst of this, I realized that I find another place that is kind of better suited to my needs. They didn't want me to have the dog that I had. They said that they thought she was a restricted breed. I was like, okay, like, I think I'm just like, this isn't gonna work out. I got accepted for the apartment, and like within the week, like less than 7 days later or something, I told them, I was like, hey, like, I really appreciate your time. I don't think that I'm gonna go through with signing, da da da. Just like let me know how I can receive the refund of my application deposit. So I get an email back from, you know, the leasing manager or whoever it was that's like, oh, like, unfortunately, like, because it's been more than 72 hours since you applied, we're not going to refund your security, or we're not going to refund your application deposit. Like, and I was like, the fuck? I was like, where does it say that? It was in the fine print of what I signed when I applied. Do I think it was legal because I signed it? Yeah. Do I think it's shady? Yeah, it was really shady. Especially because I had never signed for the apartment. I didn't sign for anything. It was pretty quickly. Like, it was longer than 72 hours, but it wasn't like I waited, 2 months and wasted their time and was like, hey, like, also, when I applied, obviously, like, you can apply online and stuff, and paid with card. They charge the stupid bullshit card fee for, like, when you apply, or when you pay your rent online, or when you apply to something online. So between the application fee, the application deposit that then becomes part of your security deposit, and the stupid credit card fee, the whole thing to apply was over $700, about, like, just over $700. And, like, I know that the application fee is non-refundable, and I think that that's valid. Is it annoying and a little bit cost prohibitive for some people? Yeah, but I knew that that part would be non-refundable. The deposit should be refundable. And I went back and forth with them about it a couple times, and I was like, you say that this money goes towards a security deposit after you sign. It's illegal to, the way that they word it is how they got around it, but in Pennsylvania, it's illegal to, hold a security deposit for somewhere you never inhabited, or somewhere you never occupied, never caused damage to, never signed a lease for. I never took possession of the property, like of the apartment. So that would be illegal. But because they call it an application deposit, that's how their, like, weird legal workaround is, where they can basically withhold it from you if it's longer than 72 hours. So I went back and forth with them about it, and I was like, I'd really like to resolve this. I would really appreciate returning my security deposit, this deposit, considering it's being applied towards a security deposit and it's illegal to withhold that, blah, blah, blah. They're like, well, you signed it. I will give them that. I signed it. They're like, well, you signed it and it says right here. I'm like, okay. And the last time I said, like, I'd really like to resolve this. I don't want to take it to I don't want to file a claim with the Attorney General. Because this is $700, okay? You know what I could do with $700? You know what everyone could do with $700 right now? Like, this is not a small sum of money. Plus, I still have to go apply and put a security deposit down for a new apartment. I'm not staying in this apartment. So then I have to go on top of that, pay for a new place to apply and to do the security deposit and move and everything else. I wanted this money back. So they're like, yeah, unfortunately, like, we can't return it, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, fine. So I go through, like, the Attorney General's website for, like, a claim, whatever. I forget exactly. This was a while ago. I forget exactly what it fell under, like a landlord-tenant, like a landlord complaint, or like a business. I forget what it fell under. I had, like, researched it, filed the complaint, whatever. Never heard anything back about it. I tried to follow up. I have still to this day not seen a penny of that money back. So I was really just out just over $700. And I feel like whether or not you can say, like, for sure I signed the paper, was it sneaky? Yeah, I think it was really sneaky. And I also think that it's a little predatory to have a practice like that, especially these days. Like, renting is already expensive enough, living is already expensive enough, to then be having a practice like that where you are basically profiting, like, a significant amount off of people who aren't even moving into the property, aren't causing you any time, damage, expense, anything, to just be basically able to hold $700 plus. It's pretty crazy to me. So, yeah, drop your worst renting stories below, because I feel like everyone has a horrible renting story. Like, and it's horrible because it shouldn't be like this. Renting an apartment used to be the cheap option if you couldn't own a home, and now it's basically just as expensive. So,
got another story for you. When I was 17, I was in a rollover car accident on I-94 in Detroit, right before the Allard exit. If you know, you know. So I thought it was a great idea to go with this guy to a party, And he picks me up in a white G6, and we get in the car. He's like, we got to go get my friend. I was like, okay, let's go get your friend. So we drive all the way down to Detroit, pick up his friend. His friend gets in the car. Mind you, we don't have seatbelts on. None of us have a seatbelt on. We pick up his friend. We start driving. We're going down 94. This kid starts driving at 100 miles an hour, dipping and dodging, weaving out of traffic. And I hear the kid in the back put his seatbelt on. I hear it click. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, let me put my seatbelt on. Put my seatbelt on. I'm not even joking you. 60 seconds later, he swerves into the off-ramp lane. It's not even a lane. It's where people merge onto the freeway. He swerves into this off-ramp lane. He's going 100 miles an hour. He goes to slam on the brakes because he almost hit the car in front of him. He can't get control of the vehicle, so he turns the wheel all the way to the side, so the car is like this now, going 100. What do you think happened? Yeah, we flipped. We flipped. I remember curling into a ball, my head between my knees, and I started praying to my grandma. That's what I started praying to. I started praying to my grandma. I'm like, I'm going to die. After impact, I'm in shock. I'm in disbelief. I'm like, I'm alive. I'm alive. I look in the back seat. Dude's eyes are bugged. Huge. I'm like, is he dead? I'm like, hey, blinks. I'm like, you're alive. I look over to the side of me. Homeboy's not in the car. He left us. He left us in the car. He fled the scene of an accident. I'm like, where's my cell phone? Can't find my phone anywhere. Dude took my cell phone. So I tell the guy in the back, I'm like, jump out the sunroof, because there was a sunroof in this white Pontiac G6. I'm like, jump out the sunroof. He jumps out the sunroof. I jump right after him, and in my mind, I'm like, this car's gonna explode because it just flipped 6 freaking times. We start running down the freeway to get away from this car because I was so scared. I didn't even look back to see how bad this car accident was. Trust me, that was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life after I seen the picture of it. Horrible. It was compacted, crushed. There was nothing. I don't even know how I survived that. Anyway, we're running down the freeway. I sit my little happy ass down. This lady, so many people pulled over, but this lady pulls over. She stops, gets out, doesn't speak a lick of English. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, do you have a phone? Like, do you have a cell phone? Hands me her phone. Normal people would call 911. I called Gare Bear. Gare Bear was 911. I'm on the phone with Gary. I'm like, Gare, I just got in a car accident. I'm okay. He's like, okay, where are you? I'm like, I'm right in front of the Allard accident on I-94. He's like, okay, I'm coming. I hang up. Okay. I don't know how much time went by, but all of a sudden, I see my mom flying up. My mom was with Gary. My mom's flying up. She's screaming. She's crying. She's looking at me. And that's why I'm telling you, I didn't even know the extent of this car accident, how bad this car looked. Like, this car was horrible. Gary thought I was an offender bender because I'm like, hey, I'm okay. Not okay. So I'm sitting there. They end up putting me in a gurney. They put that thing on your neck. I'm not a paramedic, whatever the hell that shit is. Put that thing on my neck. Throw me in the back of an ambulance. Mind you, I have on an Ed Hardy shirt. Some type of jean. I don't know. Is my favorite jeans. I get in the back of the ambulance. They're like, we need to cut your clothes. I'm like, looking at them like, you're not cutting my clothes. This is my favorite shirt. I was throwing a tantrum. Idiot. My mom's looking at me like, what the hell is wrong with you? They cut my clothes. They get me into St. John's in the pediatric unit because, again, I'm under the age of 18. They come flying in. They're like, you have internal bleeding. I'm like, what the hell? And it's from the seatbelt. So I had internal bleeding like down in my lower abdomen because of the seatbelt and because of the impact. So they admitted me for a whole week. So anyway, I'm in the room. Gary's like, where's your cell phone? I'm like, I have no idea where my phone is. Remember, Gary always had a tracking device on my phone. That man hunted my phone down. It was on the side of the freeway. Guy made a phone call through my phone, dipped, could not find this kid. This kid just left us there in this car. Did not give a flying. So after everything is calm, cool, and collected, I'm released from the hospital a week later. Gary's like, when you called me and told me you're in an accident, you said I'm okay. I'm like, okay, it's just a fender bender. When I pulled up to the freeway, it looked like a crime scene I would have worked on. That car was insane. He's like, my kid's in there. And he said that his stomach fell into his ass. In the way that my mom reacted when she got out of the vehicle, the cop was like, stop. She's like, that's my daughter was in this accident. And the cop was like, are you the mother? And my mom, I guess, like fell to the ground because when the cop was like, are you the mother? She was like, oh my God, is she dead? because like she just like didn't understand. She didn't know all the details because Gary was just flying there. Like Gary got in his little Chevy Impala and drove there like he was in a cop car, ready to go. He was full blast, like he was ready to go. Take the man out the force, but you can't take the force out the man, okay? So Gary, he's like, where is this kid? Like he's ready to rumble. He's like, where is this kid? Months go by. Gary cannot find this kid for the life of him. He made it his life's mission to find this kid because he wanted to. Not literally, he couldn't, but you know, he could really just put the law of justice down. Finally, it breaks. This kid ends up in a shootout with cops. Had a warrant out for his arrest, gets arrested, and Gary's like, my time to shine. And then like full circle moment, I remember like a year later, I go to a house party. I'm with my high school boyfriend at the time. This kid that was in the car is at the party. Can you imagine my rage? Can you imagine the rage in my body when I seen this kid's face? I was like, oh my God, Becky, look at that. I call Gary. This kid must have known because this kid dipped immediately, hopped over fences, got the out of there, dipped. And I was like, damn. You smart. You found out my dad was a cop. Smart. Stupid. Yeah, I survived. Hi.
Okay, so I want to share this story time that is honestly kind of unbelievable, and I'm a little bit less traumatized now by it, so I think I'm ready to talk about it a little bit. But if you stay at the Marriott, this is a little bit of a PSA. And I do want to preface this by saying that this might not be all Marriott's policy, but it was the policy at the Marriott that I stayed at. And I don't really want to specifically say where, but it was a Marriott. Okay, backtrack. So I live in New York, and I met a guy when I was in Pittsburgh, and we had just been talking, and he asked me to go to Chicago with him for the 4th of July, and I was like, yeah, that sounds fun. And we had been talking a lot, so and he was really nice. He seemed trustworthy. He seemed like a protector in a way, you know. Like, we were supposed to go on a boat, and I was like, what if I drowned? He's like, I wouldn't let that happen. You know, it was like, you know, I felt safe. I felt like I'd be safe going with him. And, you know, so I said, yeah, let's go. Like, that sounds fun. So he gets me a flight. I fly United to Chicago, and then he flies from Pittsburgh to Chicago. And I get to this Marriott hotel first, and he put me on the reservation so I can check in. Right, so I check into the hotel. I put my card down for incidentals, or if anything gets charged to the room, my card is on file. No problem. I get a key. I go up to the room. I'm just chilling, having fun. And then he eventually gets there, comes upstairs, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm able to, you know, I got my nails done, and I just say my name, and it gets charged to the room. It's like no problem. It's like, I'm on the reservation, he's on the reservation. It was fine. And then, there was one night we go out to a bar, and I see this guy from back home, and I just thought it was so insane. I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing here? You're in Chicago. Like, how do we end up at the exact same place? And I mean, it actually was a guy that I thought was really cute, and he goes to my gym, and he is really cute. He is really attractive. But yeah, so I talked to him for like 5 minutes, blah, blah, blah. And the guy that I'm with is sitting there. I didn't introduce him because I don't really know the other guy like that. And also the guy from Pittsburgh, his cousin and his cousin's boyfriend was there, so it's not like he was sitting by himself. And anyways, so I'm talking to my friend from back home, and this girl with little Jello shots comes by, and I'm like, oh, can we get one? And it's for, you had to pay cash. And he didn't really say yes or no, so I didn't know if he was gonna get any. So I went back to my conversation, and then this guy left. He walked away. And I turn around and I see that they all took Jello shots, and I was like, oh, where's mine? And he didn't get one for me, and I can only assume it was because I was talking to another guy, which was a guy from back home, which, you know, he's from back home. I can see him anytime that I want if I wanted to. Anyways, so I kind of like just pushed one of the cups towards him, and the blue dye got on his shirt and whatever, and his cousin freaked out and was like, don't do that to my cousin, and la da da. Really freaked out. And then so did her boyfriend. Her boyfriend got mad also, and they were like, don't do that. You should leave. Go hang out with your friend. Like, they clearly had some conceived perception of this guy that I talked to for a few minutes, and I don't know if it was, I don't know. I don't really know what I did wrong, but they were really very much like, go hang out with your friend. You can go hang out with him. I'm like, who am I going to hang out with? Like, where am I going to go? And so I got really upset, and I was pretty drunk, and so I left the bar, and I just went to go cool off and let them cool off. And so as soon as I get outside of the bar, I go to call him, the guy from Pittsburgh. He blocked me. He just blocked me. Like, he invites me to Chicago, and the second I'm away from him, he just blocks me. Doesn't care if I'm safe, like, whatever. I'm like, okay, well, I have nothing to do, so I'm just gonna Uber back to the hotel. So I Uber back to the hotel. I get there. Oh, I don't have a key, by the way, because we had already, like, discussed. I was like, I hate being in charge of the hotel key. Like, I don't want to carry one. I don't care to carry one. Like, I don't want to think about it. So I didn't have one in my bag. I didn't think I needed to. So I go to the front desk and I say, oh, I left my key upstairs. Can I get a new one? And the girl says, oh, there's something wrong with my computer. Hang on 1 second. And they said something about how they had to check and make sure the room was safe or some BS, because he tried to make it so I couldn't get into the room. And he blocked me. So he was trying to keep me from the room where all of my things were, and wouldn't let me contact him. So basically tried to strand me in Chicago. Mind you, I was in like shorts and a t-shirt, like hardly had anything on me. But luckily they did let me into the room, because I'm like, I'm on the reservation. All my things are up there. You're not gonna do that. So I go up to the room. You know, I'm cleaning. I took a bath. I was relaxing. I had another drink. I was listening to music, because he blocked me. Like, I had nothing to do. Like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know anyone. I didn't want to go walk around Chicago by myself, so I just waited for him to come back and thought things would be fine. I went to bed, and then I wake up to pounding on the door. Oh, because I locked the deadbolt thing on the door when I was taking a bath. So I wake up to pounding on the door, and it's him and security. And he wants me kicked out of the room. Yeah. He wanted me to leave. It's 3 a.m., by the way. 3 a.m., I'm in these pajamas, and he wanted me to leave. And pack my things and leave. And I'm like, where am I gonna go? It's 3 a.m. Just come to bed. Just go to bed. And, I'm like, I'm not leaving. So they go downstairs, and I know security's talking to him for a while. And security comes back up. They're like, no, he really doesn't want you to be here. He doesn't feel safe with me in the room. I'm 5'2". I'm like 115 pounds soaking wet. Like, and this man is like 6 feet something, like 200 pounds. He was big. I'm like, oh, he doesn't feel safe. Crazy. Because I pushed the little cup at him. And so I'm like, I'm not leaving. I have nowhere to go. Like, I can't like just book another hotel room. It's so expensive to stay in Chicago. I'm not gonna do that. He needs to just come upstairs and go to bed. And I think I'm gonna have to do a part 2. Damn it. All right, part 2 of this crazy story from Chicago. So, so security goes back downstairs, talks to him, and they're down there for like an hour. Security's down there for an hour. And I think they might have come up another couple more times, just back and forth, telling me that he's just so adamant. He's down there really playing victim. And really just sticking to his guns that he did not want me there. And that that was it. He wanted me to leave. And I'm tell security at the hotel and the staff, I'm like, how could he just kick me out? I'm on the reservation. I put my card down. I can get a key. I can like do all these things. How can he kick me out? And they tell me it's their policy because he booked and paid for the room and he's the owner of the room, that he's entitled to do that. And that's just their policy. And I'm like, but like, what if I had paid him? Like, only one person can actually book and pay for a hotel room, whether, no matter the arrangement. So I could be paying for the flights. He pays for the hotel. How can he control that? How can they make that call if he added me to the reservation? And I would understand if I wasn't on the reservation, or if I was just a guest of his that was there for the night. But I was on the reservation. I was staying there. I don't live in Chicago. The plan was for us to be there, and that's where I was staying. And so I'm like, how could, like, men are supposed to be protectors. How can he kick me out of the hotel room at 3 a.m. in the city of Chicago? Nowhere to go, and how can he do that? Like, how can a man? You're not a man if you can do that to a girl. I think that it was totally insane of him to do that. But I did ask the hotel staff. I said, so, because they told me, they were like, we would have to call the police to get you to leave if you don't. And I said, okay, well, what happens if you call the police? Like, do we both get kicked out? And basically, like, yes, if the police have to get called, or, if I'm refusing, if I'm, like, causing a disturbance, they could they could have completely kicked us both out, you know. And I'm like, well, does he know that? And so they must have relayed that to him in a certain type of way, so that he agreed to book me my own room. But he booked me a room at a different hotel that was less nice. So they did still bring police. So Chicago PD comes up. The hotel, like, there's literally like 5 men outside my hotel room. And they're like, yeah, you gotta pack your stuff. We'll, like, wait for you out here and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, how is this even real? Like, how can this truly be happening? Sure enough, it was really happening. Like, this guy was really doing this. All over because I talked to a guy and then, like, pushed a little paper cup at him. But I think it was mostly over talking to a guy, and he just wouldn't admit that. So I packed my things. And, you know, once I cleaned up all my stuff, it's like, this hotel room is empty. Like, when he walks up there, he's gonna be sad, because he's, like, the girl that he was supposed to be with and have fun with, that literally, like, you know, like, girls bring, like, life into things, I feel like, and, like, you're gonna be sad sleeping by yourself, and you should be sad, because I feel like you're an excuse of a man if you can do that to a girl, because I think you have to do something so terrible to get that kind of treatment from a guy. And so yeah, I go downstairs, he's sitting there, and, you know, if I was the way he was trying to portray me, I would have caused a scene. I didn't even say a word to him. I hardly even looked at him. But I just sat there. The police offered to take me to my hotel. Like, I feel like the hotel staff, the police, like, they're all actually, like, they were men. Like, they understood. Like, they didn't want to, they could see right past him. Like, he's a little bitch, because they probably felt like it's unbelievable also that a man would do that. And I know that this staff was just following, like, Marriott's policy, but this is just something that you should know if you're staying at a Marriott, especially if you're staying with a man that booked the hotel, because at least the one I stayed at, I was told the policy is that whoever booked it, paid for it, they're the owner, they can kick out anyone. Doesn't matter if you're on the reservation, doesn't matter how long you were staying there already, doesn't matter if you put your card down and checked in. Whoever booked and paid for it, it's their room, they're in charge of whoever's there. I didn't know, so it's kind of unsafe if you're traveling with a guy, any guy, actually anyone. You're traveling with your friends and you all split a hotel room, and the person that booked it, they can kick, that person can kick all of you out, all the friends out. That person is mad at you, she has the right to kick all of you out under Marriott's policy, that hotel specifically policy. And it doesn't matter if you paid your portion initially, because you would have to probably prove that in some way. But right then and there, like, they weren't taking any of that, because it's just not how their policy at that hotel specifically worked. And so yeah, I go to my new hotel. It's actually not that bad. Kind of liked it. The next morning I wake up, my flight is canceled. Or he tried to cancel my flight home. And thankfully, United wouldn't let him actually cancel it. They gave me a flight credit in my name, which was actually a really big flight credit. So, because he must have paid a lot for my seat at the time. And then when I rebooked for the same day, it just at a different time, it was $200 less. So now I have a $200 flight credit on top of the fact that I rebooked my flight first class. But I know, I know that his intent was not for me to have a flight home. His intent was to get refunded. But he says, I'm like, how could you do that to me? And he says, well, I got you a hotel and you had a flight credit to get back home. So he doesn't even he won't even admit to anything that he did wrong. He's just like, okay, well, it still worked out for you. So what's my wrongdoing here? And so, yeah, that was super traumatizing. And I'm a grown adult. I should have known better, but I don't know. I guess I didn't. So I'm telling you.
Okay, so that bridesmaid is crying in the corner. The bride's looking super annoyed, but some of the other bridesmaids are kind of comforting her. I'm like, what is going on here? So I go over to the bride and I'm like, hey, are we all good? Are we getting ready? And the bride was like, I'm done with this. I'm not letting this affect my wedding day. Yeah, I'm going to be able to get in my dress, but she needs to get her shit together, pointing to this other bridesmaid in the corner. And I'm like, okay, is there anything that I can help with? And she's like, just don't let her effing piss me off today. And I'm like, okay. But now I'm like, what is she talking about? Sure enough, as I walk out of the bridal suite, over comes walking that groomsman. I'm like, I'm going to handle this. So I stop him dead in his tracks. And I am like, what can I help you with? It's like, I just need to go in and talk to, let's call her Stacy. I just need to go in and talk to Stacy really quick. I'm like, Stacy's busy. And he's like, this is none of your business. I need to go in and talk to Stacy. I'm like, if you can make it quick, you can go in there, but I need you out of there in no more than 5 minutes. And he's like, all right, I can do that. So he goes in, and at this time, but some of like the closest family and friends start to arrive, including some of the like spouses of the bridesmaids and groomsmen that were not like already in the wedding party start to arrive. And as they're starting to arrive, that groomsman I see comes walking out like right at that 5-minute time gap. And I'm like, okay, cool. We're all good. Except he kind of like gives me a look and went like there was a main way to get to the bridal suite from where the groomsmen were getting ready. And he like goes a different way. I'm like, it's kind of weird, but. And sure enough, they all get lined up. The wedding ceremony honestly goes off without a hitch. I'm like, perfect. Hopefully no more issues. We get started to cocktail hour. Everything's good. We get to like the wedding party introductions. We start dinner. Everything is going fine. We are like on the back end of things. Sure enough, sunset photos start. So the bride and groom are taken off. This is like, dinner's pretty much done. Everyone's had a chance to eat. People are like kind of going up to get more drinks, things like that. I happen to be walking over to go to the bathrooms, which were kind of set back and away from where the dinner area was. So I go back to the bathrooms, and I'm walking up and I heard something, and I look around the bathrooms, and sure enough, it's our little bridesmaid and our little groomsmen, who, if you don't remember, I had told you were married, each of them, to other folks outside of the wedding party, making out. And I'm like, why did I know something was going on? And they look over and they see me, see them, and I just walk away. I kid you not, she was too stunned to speak. And I walked away. And now I'm thinking in my head, like, gosh, what did I just see? I know that y'all are married.
Is this what the bride was talking about when she said, like, don't let her piss me off? I don't know. But I didn't get involved, you guys. I walked away. I went and sat down and ate my dinner. Gave it some time. Went to the bathroom at a later time. And that was that. I didn't, like, they were kind of, like, together sometimes, talking. I didn't go and, like, follow them or anything else. But, yeah. It was crazy. And they definitely left with each of their spouses. They did not leave together. No one talked about it. But now I feel like I was holding on to this big secret. But clearly maybe the bride knows. Maybe she doesn't know. I don't know. What would you have done? I have worked in weddings before, and I just have to tell the craziest story that happened recently in one of my weddings. So I was working this wedding kind of as just like extra help in helping a like wedding planner. So again, I was just kind of there as extra hands, but we were there the whole day. Bridesmaids getting ready, groomsmen's getting ready. They were, of course, getting ready in different areas. But there was this one bridesmaid and one groomsman that were constantly kind of going back and forth between like the areas that they were getting ready at. And I didn't really think anything of it because they were obviously all friends. This was not an older couple, but a lot of the friends that were in the friend group were and are already married. So they had kind of like known each other for a long time. But this particular bridesmaid and this particular groomsman were not married. There were some that were like this bridesmaid and, you know, her husband were together as a bridesmaid and as a groomsman. But again, these two were not. Funny enough, they were kind of like one of the only ones that were solo. So it was like this bridesmaid, but her husband was not a groomsman, and this groomsman, but his wife was not a bridesmaid, if that makes sense. Anyways, so they're constantly like going back and forth. There's other bridesmaids and groomsmen kind of going back and forth. I didn't really think much of it. But then when we start to get ready to photo time, where like the timeline matters, I noticed that they're continuously going back and forth. And we started with the bridesmaids, obviously, because there's more pictures to do there. And this bridesmaid is like constantly missing. We're trying to do this one photo. She's nowhere to be found. Finally, she comes back. This is like the third time that we've had to like, hey, where is she? Hey, come back. Okay, take photos. Off she disappears again. So she comes back. And at that time, I'm like, okay, I'm going to pull her aside and say like, you can't leave anymore. This is serious. We're falling behind on a timeline. So I do just that. I'm like, hey, I don't really know what's going on, but I need you to stay here. We need to be taking these photos. We're running behind on a timeline. All of that. She says, sure, no problem. Not a big deal. As I'm talking to her though, I kind of like glance over at the bride, and I noticed the bride kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but she was kind of looking at me weird, like, and looking at her weird. Obviously the bride was annoyed because we were falling back on a timeline, but it's honestly was kind of one of those looks where it was like she knew something that I didn't know. And I was like, huh, that's kind of weird. Again, not my monkeys. So we finish up with the bridesmaids. I go over to the groomsmen area to make sure that the photographer is starting over there, and we're like catching up on the time that we need to catch up on, because again, we're already falling behind on a timeline. As I'm going over there, I see this bridesmaid coming to follow us over to the groomsmen, and I'm like, if this chick starts to get us behind on the timeline in where the groomsmen are getting ready, I'm about to flip and lose it. But she goes in, she says something to one of the groomsmen that had been going back and forth or whatever. I don't know what she said, but it was quick. And then she popped out and she left. And I was like, okay, that's not going to be an issue. So the photographer starts doing all of the groomsmen photos. We get done pretty quickly. All is going good. I'm like, okay, we're going to make up on the time that we need to make up on. I then head back to where the bridesmaids all are in the bridal suite. And I walk in, and this bridesmaid is crying in the corner. And the bride, I like look over at the bride is like looking super annoyed. Again, this bridesmaid's crying in the corner. One of the other bridesmaids is like comforting her. I am like, what is going on?
Who's ready for the crazy ex-boyfriend story time? Plot twist, he finds my TikTok, my last video, and hacks my TikTok and deletes it. Anyways, I'm gonna try to make this not a million years long, but I think that some backstory is required. So, I met this ex-boyfriend my junior year of high school. So this was the year 2013 to 2014. We dated for less than a year, okay? Met him on Facebook, which should have been red flag number 1. But everything was fine in the beginning. And then he started always talking about this girl who worked at the BB store at the mall, which is hilarious. And I was just like, okay, yeah, like whatever. And then one day I wake up to get ready for school and my Instagram is deleted. And I was like so mad because I was like, I know I didn't do this. None of my friends would have done this. Like, what's going on? What happened? So like the whole day I remember I was just complaining so much. I was probably so annoying. And then that same night, me and my ex-boyfriend went to my sister's house because my nephew was just born. So we wanted to see him. Complaining to my sister, my brother-in-law about it, how it's so annoying. Meanwhile, my ex is sitting right next to me, knowing damn well he's the one that deleted my Instagram, and he's acting like he has no idea what happened. So naturally, I make a new Instagram. And what do you know? The girl still finds me and lets me know what's going on. So yeah, she messages me, she sends me screenshots, and the last message she sends me is oh, by the way, he hacked your Instagram and deleted it because I threatened to send you these messages and he didn't want me to. So we break up, obviously, psychotic behavior. I feel like there was a lot of like threatening to hurt himself, just like, you know, ploys to get me back, whatever. And then it kind of died down. So that was, again, 2013 to 2014. Now, fast forward to my freshman year of college, second semester. So this would be 2016. So 2-3 years later, I walk into one of my classes for my first day of second semester, computer science. And what do you know? He is in that class with me, which computer science, he's really good with technology and computers and doing all the crazy stuff. So I saw him, my heart literally sank to my butt. And after the class, I called my mom immediately and was like bawling to her. I was like, Mom, please let me drop this class. Like, I cannot be in a classroom with him all semester. I can't do it. But I ended up doing it. It was fine. Nothing really happened. So that summer, going into my sophomore year now, I was hanging out with my friend Haley, and I don't know if I got a text message or a call, either way, from a number I didn't know. So I was like, Haley, do you have this number? Like, do you know who this could be? And she's like, no, but I can call it and see if, you know, like whoever picks up. So she calls it, no answer, and then I immediately get a text message from the same number saying, no need to have Haley call me, it's blank. And I was like, okay, so it's you, 1, 2, how do you know that I'm with how do you know that that's Haley? Very weird. So I instantly block the number. And this is another fun game he plays. 1, I block his number, and then he just makes a new number to text me. And 2, he always plays games whenever he texts me about something. It's never just like, hey, this is blank, blah, blah, blah. It's always like, this is the guy that you dated in 11th grade. And like, just say your name. Like, grow up. Anyways, so that happened summer going into my sophomore year. I'm sure little things here and there have happened, but nothing really stands out. But I also have really bad memory because trauma, and I blacked a lot of my life out. I'm not even gonna lie. So fast forward now to my senior year of college. So 2019, I'm dating my now husband, newly dating. And one night, my husband and his friend went to the casino. And while they were there, I get a text message from a number I don't know saying that Tyler is at the casino with a girl, and given everything that we've been through, I just really think that you should know this. And instantly I'm like, okay, it's him. So I'm like telling him off via text, like, please just leave me alone. Like, I don't know what your end goal is here, but like, we're never gonna get back together. Like, why are we still, it's been 6 years since we dated. Like, what is going on? So I block his number, talk to Tyler. It's like, whatever. So like now Tyler's kind of involved because it's just this whole thing and it's so annoying. So that happens. Next year, 2020, my mom dies. I get a text message at like 4 a.m. from, again, a number I don't know, just saying how they found out about my mom and they're really sorry and da-da-da. I'm like, thanks so much for like thinking of me, but like, who is this? And again, instead of just saying his name, he says like, this is the guy you went on vacation with to Myrtle Beach 7 years ago, or something dumb. And I was like, actually, I take back the thank you. Like, please get out of here. Get out of my life. Like, stop talking to me. Stop trying to text me. Block his number. Great. And then I think the last time he really popped up was like 2 years ago. So like 2024, which time matters here. Okay, so 10 years. 10 years since we've dated. He's still popping up. And he found me on Snapchat, I think, or Tyler, I can't remember, one of us, and was just messaging me and started saying a lot of really mean things about my deceased mother, and it really triggered me, and words were said, whatever, and then I just blocked him again, of course. But I haven't heard from him since then, but I will say, like, back in college, whenever I would call people, my phone would make like tapping noises, and also just like I could hear like sounds in the background when like my phone was ringing. So I always had suspicion that he had my phone tapped as well, but obviously I have no proof of that. It was just always really weird, and like things would be moved around on my phone. I don't know. It was weird. Anyways, that is the story of my psycho ex-boyfriend turned stalker. Yeah, hopefully this was like exciting for you all. I don't want it to be like underwhelming, but it is my life and it is really crazy. And people don't believe me until I like tell them all the stories and they're like, oh, that's kind of weird. But I do have a lot more trauma. Like I said, I really think I need to make a book about my life, because some of these stories I have, you really would just think that I'm making them up because of how crazy they are. So if you want to hear more, just let me know.
Time of how a doctor, a pharmacist, and a medication called Reglan almost killed me at 17. Seen my last video, you know what I'm talking about. This is going to be the long version of everything that happened. It may have to be multiple parts because it did span over 4 years, and the symptoms have honestly still kept going until today. I've actually never talked about this publicly before or online at all. My hometown didn't even really know that it was going on, except my close family and friends around me knew it was happening when it was happening. But I wanted to share it now just as a part of my testimony and to bring awareness to what can happen in the medical field if you are blindly trusting them and not doing your own research, and awareness to the medication Reglan and just how dangerous it is. So like I said in my last video, this started when I was 13 years old. I had stomach issues all of a sudden. I hated school, and honestly probably what it was just a little bit of anxiety because I was having to go to school and I hated it so bad. But I was just bound and determined that there was something wrong with my stomach, so my mom took me to one of the only pediatric gastroenterologists in our area, and he prescribed me the medication Reglan. He did a gastroscope, and come to find out, he said that I had GERD. Well, you don't know what that is, look it up. So he prescribed me the medication Reglan. I was supposed to take it twice a day, and I did. My stomach issues seemed to get better. I was thriving. I was doing so much better than I was before, so I continued to take the medication every day, 2 times a day. Because he was a highly recommended pediatric gastroenterologist, my mom never questioned anything, as most people don't when you go to the doctor. You feel like you are supposed to be able to trust them, and they're the ones that spent the 12 years in medical school to know what they're doing and you trust them. Fast forward to when I was 15 and I finally started my period for the first time. I ended up bleeding for like 140 days straight. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I was in and out of the hospital. They put me on birth control. It still didn't stop it. It was just a really bad situation and nobody could figure out why until one day my doctor was like, just take off, I did the birth control patch. She was like, just take off the patch and see what happens. So I did, and the bleeding finally stopped. Everything got normal. I still continued to take the birth control and everything was fine. Fast forward again, I was 16. I went on a cruise with my grandparents and I got back from the cruise and I started burping all the time and nobody could figure out why. My mom took me back to the pediatric gastroenterologist that I had seen before. He done another gastroscope, did a biopsy this time, and it come back clean, and all he could assume was that it was still just the GERD, but I had never been burping before and it was really bad. So I continued to take the Reglan like he said, and that was that. Fast forward to me being 17, I went on a beach vacation with my boyfriend and his family. The whole time I was there, I was having so much fun. I wasn't even thinking about my stomach hurting, and it never hurt the whole time I was gone, so that didn't trigger me to remember to take my medicine. So I went a whole week without any medication whatsoever. When I got home, I told my mom, like, hey, you know what? My stomach actually hasn't hurt in a while, and I haven't been taking my medication. And we thought, well, I just got better, but other symptoms started. I had like racing thoughts really, really bad, and they weren't good thoughts. It was actually pretty scary. And I kept telling my mom, something's just not right. I just don't feel right. Like, I think there's something wrong with me. I started having really bad anxiety. So she took me to my OBGYN, and she switched my birth control because she thought maybe that is what was causing that. And come to find out, it was not the birth control, so I ended up going back to the birth control that I was originally on. Symptoms just kept getting worse and worse. So after I had racing thoughts, it developed into severe anxiety. I couldn't control my emotions. My mood was like all over the place. One minute I was laughing, one minute I was crying. I got really angry at little bitty things. I had really, really bad rage. And then it finally developed into full-blown seizures. So at that point, my mom started taking me to a neurologist. Went to the hospital by ambulance multiple times during this, and no one could ever explain the seizures. They didn't know why they were happening, where they were coming from, what was going on in my body to cause all of this to happen. Nobody had any answers whatsoever. Every time we would go to the hospital, my mom would tell them, like, hey, she was on the medication Reglan, she stopped suddenly, I think this is what's causing that. No doctor would ever admit that that was what was causing it. So my mom got to doing her own research about the medication Reglan, and come to find out it's an antipsychotic. It's also classified as an amphetamine, and because I had stopped taking it abruptly, it caused withdrawal. This medication was actually black boxed in, I think, 2009 and was not supposed to be given to people under the age of 18. Mind you, I was 13 when I was prescribed this, and it also wasn't supposed to be taken over 12 weeks, and I was prescribed it for 4 years, 2 times a day. No one ever caught that this was black boxed and should not be given to a child, or that I should not be taking it this long. One night I started having a seizure, and they tried to put me in the vehicle to take me to the hospital, and I was seizing so bad, and I was like, all of my muscles and stuff were so stiffed up that they ended up having to call the ambulance. I'll never forget looking up at this guy. He kind of looked like Santa Claus, and he was an EMT, and he looked at me and he said, what have you taken? Like, you have to be coming down off of meth. And he looked at my mom and he was like, has she been on meth? Is she actively on meth? And my mom was like, what are you talking about? No. And he was like, well, the way that her body is reacting is the same that we see with people coming off of methamphetamine. I was seizing so bad they had to strap me down to the gurney, and I actually broke the restraints on the gurney. And at one point, I remember I looked up at the monitor in the ambulance and my heart rate was up to 300. And the guy put his hand on my arm and he was like, sweetie, if you don't try to calm your body down, you're fixing to have a heart attack. That was one of the scariest nights of my life, and I will absolutely never forget it. I remember laying in the hospital and I couldn't even sleep. I was having seizures in my sleep, and I remember my now husband was my boyfriend at the time. He prayed over me in the room and like stopped everybody in their tracks because of the prayer he was praying. He literally like prayed me back to life. I think it was that night and that trip to the ER that we had a military doctor that was filling in for somebody at the hospital, and he was like, I'm gonna go look up Reglan. So he looked it up, he come back and he was like, you do know that can cause seizures and withdrawals, right? And my mom was like, thank you, finally somebody who believes me. He recommended that we go see a neurologist, so that's what we did. And the neurologist I'll never forget this day, she shut the door, it was me and my mom in there, and she was making me really nervous. Like, she was asking me a lot of hard questions that was like she didn't believe me and she didn't believe my mom, and she thought that we were crazy, and it made me have a seizure because my seizures were triggered by big emotions. And she looked at my mom and she said, this is not a seizure, your daughter has been sexually abused. And so in my mom's head, she starts spinning, thinking like, oh my God, surely not, like there's no way. And I told my mom, like, no, nothing like that has ever happened to me. My mom worked for DCS, so she done whatever she could to protect me and my brother my whole life, and nothing like that had ever happened to me. The doctor was just crazy and wanted to blame it on something else. So it was actually her co-worker, I can't even remember her name. She was my saving grace. She finally seen me one day, and she was the first doctor to really believe me 1000%, because she had to testify in court against doctors who had prescribed Reglan and been in cases where Reglan had almost killed somebody. At one point, I had even been transferred to Vanderbilt Children's Hospital, and they didn't even believe me that this medication or this doctor could have been at fault for what happened to me. During my mom's research, to go back to the period thing, she found that this medication can also cause menstrual problems, and it can cause severe bleeding, it can cause abnormal periods, and we believe that that was one of the symptoms. It also causes a thing called tardive dyskinesia, which is involuntary body movements, and we believe that's what the burping was. Tardive dyskinesia is a symptom of long-term use of Reglan. I've run out of time, so y'all are going to have to go to part 2. This is part 2 of how a doctor, a pharmacist, and a medication called Reglan almost killed me at 17. If you haven't seen part 1, go back and watch that and then come to this video. So we left off thinking that I had tardive dyskinesia, which is the involuntary body movements caused by the long-term use of Reglan, and that was what caused the burping, it caused the menstrual problems, it caused all kinds of problems. In all of this, I also couldn't hold my bladder. It was like I had no control of my bladder at all, which we also think was the tardive dyskinesia. For a little while, they had me on a seizure medication, a migraine medication, and who knows what else. I was also put on Lexapro for the severe anxiety that everything had caused, and I still take that to this day, which I found out is probably not good for me either, and I've tried to wean off, but it got really bad. So I've also never had panic attacks in my entire life. I never had anxiety really much, maybe just a little bit, but nothing ever the way that I have it now, and it caused me to have severe panic attacks. At the time, I didn't know what they were. Now I do, and I've had to be prescribed medication for the panic attacks. Reglan just completely dysregulated my whole entire nervous system and fried it pretty much. The good thing is, though, the seizures stopped, the migraine stopped, so as it's slowly been working out of my system over the last several years, it's definitely gotten better. It's just the anxiety and the panic attacks now that I deal with, which hopefully I'll be able to come off that medication soon, and I'll be 100% better by the grace of God. So I didn't even realize how often that this medication was prescribed, and I had a friend who had just had a baby, was having trouble breastfeeding, and they prescribed Reglan to her to help her milk supply. I've also heard it being prescribed to pregnant women for acid reflux. And so if you or somebody you know is taking Reglan, I highly, highly, highly encourage you to look it up, research about it, and wean off. Do not stop taking this medication or any medication cold turkey. I remember one night, it was actually the night I was telling y'all about where the EMT looked like Santa Claus. My dad was holding me because that's all he knew how to do, was just hold me, you know, when I was going through that. I can't imagine watching, now that I'm a parent, I can't imagine watching my child go through something like that. I know it was incredibly hard for my parents and my boyfriend, who is now my husband, but I have a cross tattoo on my finger because I used to wear a cross ring right there, and I remember my dad rubbing that one night when he was holding me before the ambulance got there, and he was like, just remember who's got you, just remember who is holding you in his hands. And it was like that moment, it was like the Lord just spoke to me and he was like, you're gonna be okay. I know it seems really hard and it's gonna get really hard, but you're gonna be okay. So in the midst of all of that going on, I went and got this tattoo which says be still, because I felt like that's what he was saying to me in that time where I felt like I could not be still. I felt like that was the last thing on earth that I could possibly do, was be still, when my whole body was abandoning me. And he just still reminded me in that moment that he loves me and he's got me and he's standing there beside me and he's already went before me and paved the way to know that I'm gonna be okay. So as of today, I'm still working through detoxing that out of my system because I took it for so long. Who knows how long it's gonna stay in my system? Hopefully not much longer, but that's all I can do is just pray and trust God that he's already went before me again and made the way for it to be okay in the future. And I wanted to share this as my testimony and maybe reach out and help somebody if you have had any of this happen to you, or you've been neglected by the medical system, or you felt abandoned by them. I pray that you do your research, you find your way and your faith and your trust and your hope, put all of that in the Lord, and he will take care of you ultimately. And I just wanted to bring awareness to this medication and what can happen if you don't advocate for yourself. A doctor, a pharmacist, and a medication called Reglan almost killed me at 17, so this is a part 3. If you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, go back and watch those. I thought I would do a part 3 to kind of answer some questions and some comments that I got on my last 2 videos. First thing that I wanted to address is in the first or second part, I think it was in the first part, I said that it was an antipsychotic. What I meant by that is that it is almost identical to the old antipsychotics that they used to use back in the day. It is not technically classified as an antipsychotic, but if you look it up on Google, do a quick Google search, they are almost identical. The second thing I wanted to address was calling it an amphetamine. What I meant by that was that I had an amphetamine reaction to it in my body, and like I said, the EMTs thought I was coming off of meth because it reacted in my body that way. You can also Google it and see that it does have several effects like an amphetamine would. And in rare cases, it can also cause you to fail a drug test, which did happen to me when I was in high school on the cheer team. We had to do drug tests, and I did fail because I was taking Reglan. I got several comments of people saying, don't blame the doctor or the pharmacist, that was not their fault, and it 1000% was their fault. So to explain that a little bit, the reason that the doctor is 1000% to blame is because he was a pediatric gastroenterologist. He was the top of his class at Vanderbilt when he graduated med school, and very, very highly recommended because he was one of the only ones in our area. And I was a child. I was 13 years old when he prescribed me this medication, and this went on for 4 years, and I only seen him maybe 3 times over the span of 4 years. He just kept filling that prescription with no questions asked. He never asked to check up on me. He never asked if I was having any symptoms from the long-term use. And he was an older doctor, so he was around when this medication was first being used. Most of the time, doctors require you to come back to them, to see them, to check up on you, to see if you need to keep that medication going. He never asked to see me, so therefore I do fault him for that. And somebody who was top of their class in med school should have known to do their research, should have known that it was black boxed for long-term usage, should have known I was taking it way longer than the 12-week usage. And also the fact, again, that I was a child. People had said, don't blame the pharmacist, it's not their fault. I do also fault the pharmacist because I was never made aware of the side effects. I was never made aware of it only supposed to be used for 12 weeks. They never caught it in the 4 years that I had taken it. They never questioned it, not one time. And honestly, y'all, I live in an extremely small town where everybody knows everybody, and they knew that I was coming back over and over and over again to refill that prescription, and no one ever thought to mention, hey, did you know this has a potential side effect of tardive dyskinesia? Did you know this was not supposed to be taken over 12 weeks? No one ever questioned anything. Another thing I wanted to address was people said I should have sued them, I should have had a malpractice lawsuit, things like that. And at the time, we did look into that sort of thing, but here's the thing. The doctor never actually told me to discontinue use. It was just something that kind of naturally happened as I got older and I was a kid and I forgot to take it. And they call it a practice for a reason. It was also going to be extremely hard to find a doctor that would testify against him and attest to all of the symptoms and the harm that he had caused me. Personally, think this medication should be banned. I think it should be illegal and taken off the market, and honestly, no one will change my mind on that. I think there are much safer alternatives with less side effects or even less severe side effects. You can go back and read through my comments on my last 2 videos of the hundreds of stories of people that have had terrible interactions with this drug, and it almost took their life as well, and I think that warrants for it to be banned. If there was ever a way I could go back and change anything, it would be this whole situation. I would have never put it in my mouth to begin with. Honestly, this medication ruined my life. It ruined a big part of my life. Prior to this happening, I was the life of the party, happy-go-lucky kid. I was really goofy, and it honestly just changed a lot of who I was, and sometimes I wonder who I would be if I had never taken it. At the end of the day, I can't go back and change it, but I make these videos to maybe help somebody else. If you've been through this, or if you're going through this currently, or if you've been prescribed this medication, I just encourage you to please do your research, look it up, look up the side effects, and just be cautious with trusting a medication like this. I do believe there is a time and a place for modern medicine. I think we do need it, but I also trust in the Lord and the medicine that He has given us. He is the ultimate physician. He has the final say, and I just hold on to that, and I hope you can too.
Why I'm ending my marriage 1 month after the wedding. To start, the wedding was kind of a disaster. I don't even think that I knew the gravity of the situation that unfolded, because I myself had not eaten the entire day, and while I was getting makeup done, I drank a whole bottle of champagne, so I was kind of like in my own place. So for context, Kevin's family didn't come because his dad was sick, was in the hospital for medical reasons or whatever, so they didn't come, obviously so, and 2 of his friends ended up not showing up, so Kevin was kind of already upset about the whole situation, understandable. And to preface, Kevin has had issues with drinking, so sometimes, you know, he'll go months without drinking or anything, and then every once in a while he'll have a moment where he drinks in excess, and kind of, you know, how they, like, when you get drunk to that point. So with all the family drama leading up to the wedding, I told Kevin my concerns. I was like, look, I'm really worried that you're gonna overdo it with the drinking and it's gonna cause, you know, problems. No, babe, I promise I'm not gonna do that to you. Like, I'm not gonna let people give them the opportunity to see that. So I was like, okay. Even my friend who we were renting from and that I'm like working with, he even was like, I'm worried that he's going to make a fool out of himself at the wedding and ultimately, you know, embarrass you. And I was like, no, I really hope not. Like, I don't think he's capable of doing that. So anyways, we get to the wedding. You know, my dad had made some comment, like something like Kevin went and hugged him and shook his hand, and my dad said something like, shake and a hug isn't enough. And for some reason, Kevin took that really poorly, whatever. So then we go to dinner, like on the boat, and obviously we reserved for like, it was for 25 people. It ended up being like all 19 of us that were there because like his family and everything. So there's a whole table empty. And my dad made a comment, like just stupid comment, like, oh, like you guys wasted all this money and you have this empty table. And then Kevin got like really heated, like just like, no, like I'm not dealing with this, and kind of just like walked out. So then I was like, okay, I just kind of don't really remember. All I know is my sister went out to try to talk to him. Like 2 of his friends went out to go talk to him. And then he was like so drunk by the time he got back to the hotel, like he had just passed out. So then we went out and one of his friends met up, and he basically told me everything that happened at his bachelor party, and I was mortified. So apparently Kevin was drunk the entire weekend, ate a whole chocolate bar of shrooms, and just was like getting really erratic, was like telling everyone that like he can fight everybody, that he's Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And mind you, his friend is 6'5", like he's a tall dude. So he's like, you think Kevin, who's 5'11", is gonna
he's like, Sarah, he's like, the only reason I'm here is because this is like my last, like my goodbye to Kevin. Because like how he acted, he's like, everyone of his friends, like that's the reason why 2 of his friends didn't come to the wedding. I was like, I understand now. Like, so all that happened, I'm clearly embarrassed. You know, people are coming to me after the wedding being like, what's going on, what's happening? And I'm like, I don't even know you know, what to say. So then 4th of July weekend, you know, I went to meet 2 friends and they were like, what's going on? Like, we're kind of concerned. And I was like, well, they're like, you know, like it was a big deal. Like, and she was like, the way you kept your cool, I was like, I don't think I even realized how bad it was. So apparently when my sister went out to go talk to her, he got in her face and was screaming and yelling at her and all this stuff. So after the wedding, I was like, all right, this guy completely betrayed me. Like, this was like almost like, it was just pretty much unforgivable. Like, we went to couples counseling, and because we had been going to couples counseling before, and I kind of wasn't happy with the way he kind of approached the situation. I was like, look, this is the last chance I'm giving Kevin. Like, he needs to figure out his shit, because I'm kind of like done and over with it. I'm probably gonna have to make this like a multi-part series because I'm talking too much, but I'm trying to go as quickly as possible. So when I was talking to my own personal therapist, she even said, she's like, it sounds like you have more than 1 foot out the door. I was like, yes. I was like, because now all I see is all his flaws. All the good qualities about him no longer exist, and the Kevin that I fell in love with is no longer standing in front of me. And so I was like, he has to go completely sober for us to even get to a point for me to want to be able to move forward from this situation. So back in June, he was working a sales job, and he was like starting to hate it, which I told him from the beginning. I was like, you should not be getting a sales job. You're not meant for corporate. You're a blue collar guy. And he was like, no, I don't know. And I was like, well, you know what, Kevin, listen, can you wait until after the wedding before you make a decision to quit your job? And also, can we wait until we start up this property management shit so we can actually have the income coming to before you decide? He's like, yeah, that's fine. He quit like 2 weeks before the wedding. And he thought, oh, well, I'll kind of be like a handyman for your friend working on the property. And my friend was like, look, he's very slow. He's not doing a good job. Like, he needs to get his shit together. Okay. So then finally this past Thursday, it came to a head where I was like, look, Kevin, you're being lazy. You're being slow. Like, you're not keeping up with the work. Like, something has to give. He got all butthurt and offended by it. So Friday, I noticed that the bathtub faucet was leaking because he had been messing around trying to replace the stuff. So I was trying to tighten it, and all of a sudden the thing exploded. Water blasted everywhere. The tub started filling up. I called him. I'm like, can you come help me? Immediately calling me names, telling me, like, yelling at me, like, what the fuck did you do? Are you fucking stupid? Whatever. So then I call my friend who's like not too far. I was like, hey, because it's his property. I was like, look, this is the situation. He's coming. Kevin comes like an hour after. At this point, the only thing we could do was just bucket water out of the tub and dump it in the toilet because we could not find the valve to shut the water off. In total, it took 3 hours before someone was able to come to shut the valve off and the water could be done. At this point, the water dripped through the first floor and the second floor and caused damage. Kevin came. When he came, he was screaming, yelling again with the insults, everything. Got in my friend's face and then started acting erratic. I wasn't even looking because I was preoccupied with this shit. Well, after he left the property, my friend found this. So out of whatever anger Kevin had, he ripped that door off its hinges and threw shit. And that to me was like, all right, for him to get mad over something like this and cause that kind of damage, I am not going to continue and see what else he's capable of doing. And so I had reached out to his friend and his wife, like the couple that their wedding that me and Kevin met at, and I explained, and they said, we're so sorry. And they even said, they're like, we don't know what happened to him. He's not the same Kevin we knew either. So clearly there's a lot. So yeah, still processing everything, still kind of a shock, but I know that I made the right decision. I'm probably gonna have to make some follow-ups on this, but there's a lot more things that kind of fit into this to kind of really explain, but I don't really have that much time. I have like 30 seconds left. So thought I'd give you guys an update. All I can say is I'm here in Chicago. I'm going to make the best of my situation living here and just focus on myself. And that's really all that I can do at the moment. I'm going to try to go as quickly as I can with this. So Kevin and I met 3 years ago at a wedding. It was my sorority sister's wedding, and I was out with my friend the night that she met her now husband. Kevin and her husband met in 2020, February 2020, when they joined the Navy, and they went through the whole process, like boot camp, everything together. So they got really close, and they ended up getting stationed in Japan. My friend and her husband, they got legally married so that she could go to Japan, and she lived with him and everything like that. They ended up having their wedding back in 2023, so like 3 years ago. So I was a bridesmaid, he was a groomsman, and that's how we hit it off. And at the after party, I asked my friend, I was like, what's his story, whatever. She got very was very protective of him. She's like, I consider him like my third brother. He's been through a lot of shit. He's a really good guy. He's just recently just got out of a really shitty situation and all this stuff. And so I was like, okay. And as things, when Kevin and I started dating, there was no anything from her being like, don't date him, don't anything. And even throughout our relationship, she had always maintained if Kevin were a bad guy, I would not let you date him, and I would tell you so, that you shouldn't. So I have all these people who have known Kevin way longer than me, throughout our relationship, being he's a great guy, wonderful, and he was. And our relationship always, for me, always felt very natural, very comfortable. There was no weirdness or awkwardness between us. And in a lot of ways, he had went above and beyond for me, and he was very caring and loving with me. All this to say is when we first started dating, I said, look, alcohol is an issue, with guys I've dated. So this is something you have to work on. And he worked on it. He did a very good job. We never had alcohol in the house. And for, I would say up until October-ish last year is then he kind of went on this up and down of he would go a few months without drinking, and then he would drink after, start drinking after work again and stuff like that. So there were many great qualities about Kevin, but now it's those don't exist anymore. And even his friends, the ones that I've talked to and that have known him way longer than me, the friends that from their wedding, they even said that they don't recognize him anymore. So for them to be saying this isn't the Kevin we know, it's a recent development. So that's why I went through, and I genuinely love him. I haven't stopped loving him. I was in love with him. For me, he was the one. There was nobody else. There was nobody else that fit who I was or like I can't even explain it. And I would have done anything and everything for him and for that relationship to work. So at the end of the day, it wasn't really the drinking that made me end things. It was the fact that he got so violent when he was not drinking, and violent in front of people. So it's like, what is he capable of doing in the future? And at the end of the day, I just want him to get the help that he needs. Everyone wants him to get the help that he needs. And that's all that I can ask for. Like, you know, everyone, you know, judge me all you want for marriages and stuff like that. I put my life out there, so I'm okay with the judgment. I'm not gonna be like, oh, whatever. But I'm just as shocked in all of this with everything going on, because I would have never thought that it would end like this. And that's just like the honest truth. And even this month, like me explaining everything that happened in the wedding, it was just to show like this is what has happened in the month since all that. Like there's the strains, and even then I was willing to try to make it work and do whatever and support him through anything. But at this, he didn't want to see anything as a problem. So at that point, it's like there's nothing I can do. And then it's not even me, it was even his friends trying to like talk to him and be like, yo, you need to get help, you need to, you know, do what you need to do. So again, things were great till they weren't. So a lot of people have been commenting about the drinking, saying like, oh, like your ex has a drinking problem, but you drink a whole bottle of champagne. And to that, I have to say, me drinking a bottle of champagne while I'm getting ready on the wedding day is not comparable to someone who has an actual drinking problem and has had a history of drinking in excess and just kind of acting a little crazy. And so the point that I was trying to tell Kevin was like, hey, you know, just don't get so drunk that something's going to trigger you, you know? That was the whole point I was trying to make. Not that he was not allowed to drink. It was like, it's our wedding, you know, have a drink or two, have fun. Okay. Me sharing that is not the reason why I'm leaving Kevin. That was just me sharing, you know, what had happened at the wedding, what led up maybe to this point. So I'm gonna say this. Thursday, my friend and I were talking because we are not satisfied with how he's doing the work. My friend, like I mentioned, he owns a bunch of properties. He, you know, came to me. He's like, hey, I can see that you know, I can trust you and want to see if we can partner up and you can help me. So I was like, great, cool. Also, he was also being the one to give us an apartment and all that stuff. So he's helping us out with getting an apartment, you know, partnering up so that I can make more income on top of my regular job. And on top of that, it was a way for Kevin to also have like a job, and he was paying him $30 an hour to do stuff like around all his properties. So then my friend was like, you know, I'm giving him a chance, but he's like not working as hard as I want him to. Like, you know, the whole point of me having him is that he was supposed to be better than the guys that take 2, 3, 4 days to get shit done. And, you know, he told me himself that he could get things done fast. So I tried to talk to Kevin Thursday night, like being like, hey, you know, you're being kind of lazy. Like, Itor has a lot of these, he has a lot of these expectations, and, you know, you're just not kind of like meeting them. Like, you work for an hour and then you kind of just don't do anything for the rest of the day. And this is important because one day he was working on the shower bath faucets, took all the faucets off, like left just like the bare bones and stuff like that. So mind you, so he has a history of starting projects and then just like not finishing them. So when I talked to Kevin about this, he got all butthurt and upset. And then Friday morning, he's like, okay, I'm gonna go run an errand. And I was like, okay. And then he said, oh, I'm not gonna come back. I'm feeling a lot of anxiety and I just need somewhere like for like peace and alone time. I was like, you're really gonna be like that because of the me telling you your work ethic isn't good? So then I was like, okay, whatever, I'm not dealing with this. You do whatever you fucking want to do, just whatever. 3 hours later, that's when the plumbing issue happened because I noticed that there was leaking from the faucet. So as I mentioned in the other TikTok, I tried everything to do to tighten it to make sure the water wouldn't come out. But instead of that, it started coming out more and the water pressure became just so strong that it shot out whatever was keeping it in. And I was like, okay, my immediate reaction was, you know, there was people outside working at the next door neighbors. So I was like, can someone help me really quickly? There's like some flooding, I need help. And they were useless, they couldn't find anything. They were like, we don't know. So then I called Kevin, I was like, I need help. He's like, first he wasn't answering me and I was like, hey, it's an emergency. And I FaceTime him and I say, hey, can you help me? There's flooding. And I showed him, he's like, what the fuck? What the fuck did you fucking do? You fucking stupid, like what? And he's like, no, I'm not coming to help you. You figure it out on your own. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. So then I call my friend who's at his other property and I was like, hey, here's the issue. I need help. He's like, okay, I'm coming. I'm on my way. By the time he comes, tub is full. And at this point, he's like, shit, it's flooding. It's bad. So we're just taking buckets of water and dumping it in the trash. Or not the trash, the toilet. And at this point, we've been doing it for an hour before Kevin just magically appears. He comes and all of a sudden, what the fuck? What the fuck? What's going on? What the fuck did you do? How could you be so fucking stupid? He just like takes a look, goes, walks out. I guess at that point, he had gotten in my friend's face and then was just, I guess, walking around the property, just like screaming and kicking things. And then we heard like a lot of like ruckus down in the basement. We're like, okay, whatever, we're not gonna do it. So as I mentioned, for 3 hours, I was bucketing water out of a bathtub because the bathtub was not draining and it was the only way to keep the water from continuing to overflow because we needed to find the valve. The valve was outside and that's how long it took for someone to come out and shut the valve off and then for them to fix everything. So that was that. And then come to find out, once everything settled down, my friend went down to the basement and he said, Sarah, look what Kevin did. And I showed a picture. And I'm going to show it again. So that's what he did. That's the door, literally. So right where you see that like socket, that's kind of like where the door was supposed to be. And I don't know what he did. He just took it and just flung it and all that stuff. And you know what he told my friend? Oh, it could be fixed. Okay, so whatever. After that, he leaves. Don't hear from him. My friend goes, okay, you're not staying here. We're gonna go back to the other property, which is the other property that I was staying at before we moved here, which is technically his main house that has like multiple units and stuff like that. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. And as I get there, he calls me and he's like, hey, Kevin is here. He's looking for you. He asked if you're in my unit or if he's looking for you. I told him that you're not here. And he's like, so just be careful. And I was like, oh, you know what? Because it's like we have fob access. So I told him, I was like, he has his fob. So if he's coming to this other place, like, he could get in because he has the fob. So, like, you're going to have to, like, deactivate it. And he's like, okay, I'll do that. And not even, like, 2 minutes later, I'm, like, ready to get in the shower. I'm ready to, like, call it a night. I hear something. He's walking through the door. And I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, no, get out. And he's like, okay. He just, like, was like, okay. He threw his hands up or whatever. I was like, you're not even gonna apologize? He's like, no. I was like, give me the key back. Give me the fob back. So he just threw his keys at me. And then I just took the fob off, and he had walked out, and I left the rest of his keys on the mailbox, and then they weren't there anymore. So when all that was said and done, my friend was, he was shocked. He's like, I was seriously worried that he was going to actually hurt you in a bad way, seeing that. And then he said, 2, how can a man see his wife doing physical labor for a mistake that he made that you were trying to fix, that, like, hard labor, like, I mean, my back is still in so much pain from doing all that shit, sees you doing that, sees you crying, sees you desperate for help, and instead of helping says to you, fuck you, hopes the house floods, and then do all the shit that he did. Oh, and also, he took my debit card on Friday, and I didn't realize that he did it. And why did he take my fucking debit card? Because he didn't have money. So he went and did whatever. Thankfully, all he did was do a $10 McDonald's purchase, but I canceled that shit right away. So now you have, this is what led to me ending it, because he showed a violent side when he was not drinking.
Hi everyone, my name is Kenzie, and my special talent is that I can shapeshift into a fountain. Pretty neat, huh?
I'm driving and I just had a really random thought. Triggered my memory of this awful date that I went on. I'm like, can I take you for dinner? Obviously was going through some shit, and I was like, yeah, sure, whatever, let's go, let's do it. And he was like, tonight? And I was like, fuck, tonight, let's do it. Red flag to myself, like, don't just, anyway. We have mutual friends, so I was like, you're not a serial killer, not that I know of, but anyway. We go to a really nice restaurant in Melbourne, Society. Got in the car, and I was told to wear something like black and tight. Like, I swear to God, I'm not even fucking joking. Got in the car, and he was like, gave me the look up and down. He's like, yeah. I was like, okay. He drove, so he parked the car, but all the same, like, all the time we were driving to the city, I was in South Yarra, so we were driving from South Yarra to the city. It wasn't that long, but the whole time I was driving and just going like this, and I was like, oh fuck me, I'm in for a really interesting night. He kept staring at me while I was driving. I was like, fuck, you look good. And I was like, I haven't even had a fucking drink yet. Anyway, drive to Society, and the waitress and the waiter were like, oh, like, welcome back, Mr. da-da-da-da-da. So good to see you two again. I was like, wait a damn minute. I have not been here before with this person. So obviously he had come to Society and he'd gone there with someone that looked very similar to me. And I was like, do you, like, bring everyone here, or like what's the go? He's like, no, only the good ones. I was like, I had a lump in my throat. Continue dinner. We go to sit down, and I'm assuming like we're gonna have a drink. We're at a nice place, like whatever. The waiter comes back around and was like, what would you like to drink? I was like, I'll have a spicy mug, please. And he goes, I don't, just come back. I was like, okay, weird. And he was like to me, are you worth drinking for? I was like, what am I worth drinking alcohol for? I was like, look, I think I'm worth more than drinking alcohol for, but like, you do you, whatever you want to do, like, I'm not going to force you to drink. Anyway, calls the waiter over. He's like, yeah, scotch on the rocks. Okay. It goes on. Just really interesting guy. And asks me if I had ever like been with anyone in Mykonos, or was it Santorini, one of them, because that's where he wants to marry his wife.
what? No? Like, is this a trick question? And he's like, good, because that's where I want to marry, like, the love of my life. And, like, you know, if you've had any relations with anybody else in that place, you know, like, this can't continue. I was like, so going on, okay, I'm done. I was exhausted. He was like, let's go somewhere else for a drink. And he was like, let's go to Nick and Nora's. And I was like, oh, nah, like, I've got to go home. I've got work tomorrow. And he's like, just one drink. Like, it's only like 8 o'clock. I was like, fuck me. He drove me here. So I was like, sure. Get to Nick and Nora's. He goes, we walk in to the waiter. He goes, can we get a seat, like, really close together? Like somewhere a bit private. Once again, lump in the fucking throat. I was like, no. I was like, don't worry about it. I was like, wherever you've got like a seat, like wherever you have a seat, like we'll take it there. I had obviously fuck all to say at this point, because like, if you know me, you know that I can talk garbage. But I just had like, anyway, he gave me this story that like someone in his family like used to break dance, whatever. And he like, I don't know, something like that. So I just like asked the question like, oh, do you still break dance? He turns around and whispers in my ear, I want you to dance on my point. I was fucking mortified. It was time to go.
I got mad at my boyfriend because he was super late coming home, and I was like, where are you? Tell me why he was getting me chocolate. What if this wasn't the actual reason that he was late, but because he was late and I got mad, then he went and got...
Okay, I just saw a video of these siblings, like, fighting, and somebody's like, oh my god, that was so mean, and another person was like, if you think that was mean, you obviously didn't grow up with siblings. So I thought this was my time to shine and tell you guys a story about my eternal beef with my sister. She has hated me since I was born, for being born. And anyways, so she would make my life a living hell around every opportunity in every corner. And she had cleaned out her closet, okay? And so she had a trash bag full of clothes she didn't want. She was leaving them by the front door so my dad could take them to Goodwill so he could get his little tax write-off. The man is very frugal. Anyways, so the bag's by the door and I see a hoodie on top and I'm like, oh, like, I like that hoodie. So I take the hoodie, right? Because again, it's in the bag of the clothes that she was going to give to Goodwill and so she's get rid of, that she doesn't want. At this point in time, I'm in 6th grade. She's in 8th. We're at the same school. I'm going about my little business about the day, and we cross each other, our classes cross each other in the hallway, and she goes, that's my hoodie, take it off, in the middle of the hallway in front of everybody. And I'm like, fine, you broke ass bitch, you can have it back. And so I literally take it off. I'm like, fine, take it. Like, what the fuck? I'm like, I thought you didn't want it, but like, okay, my fault, pimp. So I take it off, I give it to her, whatever, and I just like put that in the back of my head because you already know I'm not letting her get away with that shit. So I said, yeah, okay, have your hoodie. Give her the hoodie back. Week later, right? I'm going to do my laundry, and because I'm a good person, I'm switching over the laundry so that I can put, like, I'm putting whatever was in the washer in the dryer so that I can put my stuff in the washer. Now, mind you, at this point in time, it was me, her, and my dad living in a house. And so I switch over the stuff in the dryer, and as I'm switching it over, I see her single most favorite t-shirt that bitch would wear like almost every single day. She was one of those weird kids that like solely shopped in Hot Topic and wore like an animal collar and like was one missed medication away from Naruto running in the hallways. And so she had this shirt. She was obsessed with like Nightmare on Elm Street, like Freddy Krueger at the time. And so she had like this t-shirt with like Freddy Krueger on it. And she would wear that shit like 6 out of 7 days a week. And so I'm surprised it was even getting washed. But anyways, so I see it and I'm like, huh, would be a shame if this went missing. So I snatched it up. I put on a little headlamp. My dad's a mechanic. Run to the backyard. Now, mind you, we live on a farm. 6 acres. I run to the backyard, which is nothing but woods, pitch black, headlamp on. I wait until I get all the way out to the bushes where no one can see me, headlamp on, shovel in my hands, and I like dig probably like a good like 2-foot hole, put the shirt in, bury it over, throw some leaves and shit over it so you can't see like where a freshly dug hole is, go back inside, have my dinner, mind my business, go to sleep, forget about it. Next day, now mind you, my dad's working like 14-hour shifts. Like the man's exhausted. He definitely is not even trying to interact with his two mid-puberty daughters. You know, like he's good. Man's tired. So he comes home from work. She's screaming. She's like, where is it? I know you have it. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And my dad at this point is like just trying to eat his fucking cereal and like go to bed because he has to be up again and back at work in like 4 hours. And he's like blah blah. He says my name. He's like, if you have, like, just give it to her. If you have it, just give her freaking shirt. And I'm like, I don't have it. I'm like, you can go through my room, like you can go through my stuff, like I don't have it. I'm sorry. And it was true, I didn't have it because the Woods had it. Anyways, I've never admitted that until today. So, work smarter, not harder. And don't do anything they can prove in court. And most importantly, don't piss me off.
Also, I just remembered another story. So since she was 2 years older than me, she got her license, and okay, again, we lived on a farm, so the bus would come at like freaking 5 a.m. So my dad was like, listen, I'll get you a car, but the deal is you have to drive your little sister to school. And you already know she was plotting on ways to get out of that because she fucking hated me. And so we're in the car, and she used to, at the ripe hour of 6:30 a.m., blast like heavy, like screamo music at deafening what is it? Decibels? That's it, decibels. Anyways, obviously less than enjoyable. So we would get in a fight, and I was like, hey, it's 6:30 a.m. And she goes, I don't care. It's my car and it's my radio and I'll listen to whatever I want. And I was like, hey, yeah, it's my ears and I'm not going to listen to that. And so I'm turning it down. She's turning it up. I'm turning it down. She's turning it up. And then she goes to like smack me like on the chest, and I said, bet. And so I start choking her out, and we almost wreck, and everybody got grounded from the car. And then we both had to take the bus for at least 3 months. And then I think my dad gave her the car back, to which she then proceeded to, quote unquote, accidentally leave me at school quite often.